What's up, everyone? It's Adar coming at you with another episode of Startup Engineering Daily. So our first story of today is that we had this interview yesterday or a couple days ago with this guy, Suleiman Khan Gori, who was working at MacroHard and xAI, and he was interviewed by this guy, Ty Morse, I guess for his podcast called Relentless. And essentially, it was debated. I wanted to mention it in the story at the time, but I forgot and it was left out. But right after that interview was posted, people noticed that his xAI badge was removed from his Twitter account, and everyone was like, oh, did he get fired for this interview, But as of today, he did post that he's quote-unquote left xAI, so it seems like he has been let go. And the guy, Ty Morris, the interviewer, is like, he's a killer engineering grade human being. I'm going to do whatever I can to help him win. So it's kind of interesting that he might have just sacrificed his career to make this podcast. I'm sure he'll find something else. He seemed really smart, xAI, employee. But it did seem like the xAI culture was kind of like unmatched in its own realm of software startups. But I'm sure he'll land on his feet. It is funny, though, this reply that's like, I recommend you interview Nikita. It would be a killing because everyone wants to get rid of him, too. So pretty funny. Next, we have Ryan Dahl, who is the founder and creator of Node.js, as well as Dino, saying, like, this has been said 1,000 times before, but allow me to add my own voice. The era of humans writing code is over. He says it's disturbing for those of us who don't identify as software engineers, but no less true. But I actually disagree with this. Like, kind of his last sentence, like, software engineers have a ton of work to do. Writing code was actually, like, quite a sandboxed activity, and it was cool because you could run unit tests and you could do all this stuff, make sure it works. But you did always have to run it in the browser if you're building a web app, test it on the phone if you're building a mobile app, run some integration tests or something if you're building a backend service. Not that people were actually doing that pre-AI, and that's why I really like AI too, because it actually enables you to do the best practices that weren't really possible at high efficiency before the revolution. But it is interesting, creator of Node, creator of Dino coming out and saying that it's over for humans writing code. I think everyone's on the same page with that. The next step is figuring out the flow of being a software engineer. In my opinion, PR review and infrastructure are still undebatably human-led tasks because you can't really trust the AI and you have to be responsible and liable for what you deliver as a software engineer, especially if you're employed by a company. But it is a really interesting path forward for us. Next, we have a tweet from this guy. He has a cool Twitter @webmaster, and I guess he works for this company, artifacts.com. But his account was disabled and banned by Anthropic. He says without reason, and also creating a new account is against the terms. So it seems like he's banned from Claude Max. Looking at the replies, it seems like he did use open code for Claude Max and got banned because of it, which I do know that a lot of people were having that happen to them. So that really sucks. Like, I don't know why Anthropic would ban them as opposed to just like giving them more usage or something, or like taking away their usage, because it wasn't against the terms of service at the time, is my understanding, to use it with these other services. And it would be interesting, but they do have this bullet that's like, you cannot access or facilitate account or API access to Claude to persons, entities, or users in violation of our supported regions policy. I wonder if that also includes like the external, or maybe it was the intentionally bypass capabilities, because I know they were kind of like hard coding the prompt to make it seem like Claude Code was allowed to be used on open code. But it is interesting, and his point is definitely valid, which is that if you get banned by the AI company, you're screwed. They're not going to support you. You can't do anything about it. They're still a private company that gets to do what they want. And that kind of speaks to like, let's just run up the Claude Code Max until we can afford the home lab and just run everything locally. Kind of like word to TinyGrad, I'm not sure exactly where that project's at right now, but that was like the vision, was that OpenAI can't control the AGI of the future because they'll just use it for whoever they want and they'll ban whoever they don't want. And then next we have a tweet from Eric at Cursor. He's adding on to this guy John Kaplan's tweet that basically just says, for agents, always start with plan mode, start new chats frequently, leverage AI to do your code review. I mean, these are kind of obvious, and it is interesting, though. What Eric adds is he says, plan sync, implement async, which I totally agree with, When you're running the plan mode and it comes back to you with a plan, you do kind of have to manually read the entire Markdown document and take note of specific points that you have a problem with, which I think they could have a better situation for that, because what I end up doing is I end up opening like a separate notepad and taking quotes from each piece and then responding to them individually and then dropping them all in the prompt. But it would be interesting if you could honestly on some Google Docs vibe where you could like highlight and comment would be really interesting. But definitely, I think the planning piece is synchronous. You have to go through it. It takes time, and you have to refine and wait for it to generate the next plan and then check and then confirm. But once that's done, then it's async up until the point of code review, which I believe is still human driven. And yes, you can use AIs to help you review the code, but you're still liable for what gets pushed to production. And lastly, we have a tweet from Sam Altman saying that it's been fun watching the Codex team execute. I actually don't know. This guy, McKay Wrigley, I think he's a founder, but not like anything that's super known, but he is saying the team is killing it and deserves major flowers. I'm not sure what Codex is up to right now. I know like GPT 5.2 Pro has been going crazy and they have like these Codex models that you can use and people do like them, but for me, I'm just still on the Opus 4.5 Claude Code wave, but it will be interesting to see if everyone starts migrating over to Codex. And I don't know what the pricing plan looks like as well, but I do know that they're not giving away like insane tokens like Anthropic is willing to at this time. If this kind of stuff interests you and you want to talk with some like-minded people, join the Audinato Discord in the description. Thanks.